That's because I'm the host now, so
Okay, perfect.
apparently. Um,
This room is not my closet. I feel embarrassed to say this, but I don't know what else to call it. It's my glam room.
Fabulous.
So I have like my vanity over there and my makeup, and I have like a shampoo bowl in the bathroom over there. But I have this space because when I'm filming and I have people coming in and, clothes and hair and makeup, my husband goes a little bit crazy. So I
Yeah,
had to create this space to not invade his space.
you need some kind of separation between. I mean, I live in a house that is much smaller than yours because it is London, and buildings here are not. We don't have quite the space that you guys do, but I have a whole room for clothes. So this is like I completely appreciate this. One of my bedrooms has been sacrificed to my clothing collection.
Well, my main like everyday clothing is downstairs, but like
Mhm.
when I have something going on and I'm filming a Housewives interview or something, I'll have a ton of people around. So we come up here. Here's some of like looks I've worn for some
Mhm.
of the reunions or events and things. So a little bit of everything here.
Nice. Um, well, I wanted to start off by just asking a super general question. Um, Kind of how are you? How has it been kind of with this situation we've been living through? How's the past year been for you, and what's your state of mind right now?
It's interesting because obviously when everything started with the pandemic, um, I had just come off of filming the movie Halloween and
Mhm.
shooting the Housewives, and I had, been working on my clothing line and all this stuff. I was so overwhelmed. So I honestly welcomed the break of just everything stopping,
Mhm.
because otherwise I never would. Um, and other than the fact that it did prey on my anxiety a bit because of watching the news every day and how afraid,
Yeah.
it made me hearing everything. Um, I had a lot of people calling and checking on me, like, "How are you doing with your anxiety?" Bambi, stop. That's my dog who's now trying to get
Don't worry, I saw her kind of drifting across behind you.
keep that from my dog. So, and then, it was obviously, in spite of how scary and sad everything was, it was also great to have my kids home
Mhm.
all together and have that time, like many people say. But regarding like, the housewives, like we were filming all through it. And, I was doing press, I had to learn how to do all these Zooms and set
Yeah.
up all that. So I'm like, oh, now I'm an IT person, you know, I remember one day I was doing press for the new season, and I had Kelly Ripa and Ryan Seacrest
Mhm.
on a Zoom, and it was like New York time, so it was really early here.
Yeah.
I started panicking. It's live, and I'm like, oh, I cannot figure out how to get the AirPods. I was freaking out, and I'm looking at Ryan Seacrest standing in his kitchen, like, so. Oh my gosh, Bambi, get down. Bambi's such a camera hawk. She likes to be on camera. So I had to run up and get my husband, and he comes down. He's got his hair sticking up. He's like, "This, like, do you have to look like that in the computer?" But it's been interesting navigating through this time. But I'm good, and I've learned a lot about myself during this time.
Mhm.
Just kind of with this shutting down, and I left LA a lot,
Yeah.
and I really like that.
Mhm.
So
Was it out to your place in, is it La Quinta? I can't pronounce, I'm not good at
Um,
pronouncing
yeah, La
Spanish.
Quinta, and we also have a home in Aspen. So I
Mhm.
was, kind of between those two places when free, and I really love that. I love being in the mountains in Colorado. So that was something that I just it's a really grounding time for me,
Mhm.
to be out in nature in the mountains, and I really enjoyed that a lot. So I spend a lot more time there now when I'm not working. Damn it, my dog is breathing so heavily. Can you not do that? I'm so sorry.
Don't worry. I have a rabbit, a house rabbit, like about 6 feet away from us, and occasionally he's normally fine, and then sometimes he'll go kind of crazy in the middle of. I do stuff for the Financial Times, and I was doing kind of a very serious, I think, a conversation with Victoria Beckham, and he started to go crazy, and it was a bit like I can't really do anything because I can't lean over, and I just put him on mute, or put me on
A
mute.
rabbit though? A rabbit.
Yes, he's a very
One
large
in a litter
house.
box?
Yeah. No, I trained him because they're kind of like cats. So if you train them early, they go in a litter box. They're quite contained. And he did used to roam around, but I left a Louis Vuitton coat on my sofa, and I kind of got up and was like, it had rabbit hair all over it, and I was like, oh, that's a pity. And then I was like, oh, there's a hole on the sleeve. Oh, like, oh, I can shorten the sleeve, that's fine. And then I'm like, oh, there's a hole there. And I picked it up and he just crawled over and chewed holes all over. It was like this
No.
cashmere Louis Vuitton. And I was like, okay, so now he's in what I playfully call Guantanamo, which is like his little sort of caged corner. Um, so now he's contained. But yeah, that's the kind of, that's the
I've
worry
lost
with,
myself due to my animals.
I was going to say, imagine you've lost shoes and things with dogs, and I've not yet. A dog is still to come. I'm sure I'm going to have to deal with the loss occasionally.
I love animals so much,
Mm.
and I have a lot of dogs, and they will literally run outside, they'll swim in the pool, then go in the dirt, and then run in my house and like jump in my bed.
Yeah,
And I can't even get mad at them, which is terrible. They're not well trained, obviously, but they make me smile and laugh, even if they make a mess
that's the
sometimes.
worst thing when you're laughing at what they're doing, and then it's like this is what everyone tells you not to do. Is kind of encourage. It's like when you laugh at a kid when they misbehave, and then you're like, no, you're not supposed to be finding this amusing.
I know, I know.
Talking of COVID again, I wondered, did it affect the filming a huge amount? Did you, because the thing that I find quite interesting, and because at the moment I'm watching the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills alongside New York, and it feels like it's affected New York a hell of a lot more than LA, but then maybe it's just because you guys have bigger families and we see you around more people.
You know, I was just talking about this with our showrunner yesterday, and it really doesn't feel, and watching it, like a COVID season. I know
Mm.
that's like an expression
No,
now.
no, no, yeah.
Um, and we really didn't want it to feel like that. You know, we knew that once, things started to get back to, normal-ish,
Yeah.
that people want to relive all that. So we tried our best to not let it feel like that by, keeping the trips going and going places, even though we couldn't go to where we would normally go,
And then
you know.
even though you got COVID, I mean, having to
Oh,
cope with you having it and,
yeah. And then people were like, wait, you were filming while you had COVID? I'm like, yeah, I never even thought to say no to that. We were filming and doing, things over Zoom.
yeah.
It didn't feel like a COVID season. I agree. We were doing all the safety protocols that need to go into place. But I was like, how many times we have to say, we have our mask, can we take it off? Like, so, but I am proud that it doesn't really feel like that, because I mean, nobody wants to keep watching and reliving that.
But I think at the same time, when you're living through it, the thing that always kind of angers me is when I'm just like, oh, why aren't you distancing? Why aren't you wearing masks? And actually, you guys always, you always respect everything. So I think that, it's very evident. And also, I think there's this slight thing that it will be a bit of a time capsule when you look back. It's such an unusual time for us all to live through. I don't think we could ever have predicted anything like this, we'd
Oh,
all be living through.
exactly. And the truth is, it's like, even though people may not want to be watching and reliving that, that is everybody's life right now.
Mhm.
And this is reality. And, it is what it is. We're navigating through it like everybody else. But I mean, predicting something like this, oh my goodness. I will never forget, like, the first week of the lockdown.
It was
I
really
was
strict in LA as well, wasn't it? Like
very strict.
I know there I've been talking with, I know some kind of, well, I know like vintage dealers in LA and people like that, and they've been talking to me about it and being like, yeah, it's crazy. It's very, it is very strict and very harsh compared to other states.
very, very. I mean, a lot of people were not happy about that. And, so many people suffered, businesses, especially
Mhm.
restaurants and things like that. But when I was a little girl, I was on Little House on the Prairie, and I did an episode called Quarantine.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was about scarlet fever was going through,
Yeah.
the town, and I got it. And I'm watching this while I'm home in lockdown, saying all the schools are shut down, everyone has to go home, no one can come out of their homes. And I remember as a little girl shooting out and thinking, wow, that happened in the 1800s. This would
Yeah.
never happen again. And we were living the exact same thing. All the schools shut down. Everyone could leave their house. And I was like, who would have ever thought? It's so crazy that this is happening to all of us
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
lasting so long.
Um,
So,
it's weird you brought that up because I did want to talk a bit about your history and obviously that you were a child star and you kind of grew up on camera. Um, what was that experience like? Because I've read the biographies of, of people like Judy Garland and I've, the Marlene Dietrich daughter, and they talk a bit about kind of people coming to teach them at studios and things like that. But what was your experience of that?
my mom used to read me those stories about those actresses, and she'd read me all the old time Hollywood books and share stories with me because sometimes I'd be doing a movie with someone that I didn't even really grasp who they were. Like when
Yeah.
I did a movie with Betty Davis,
Oh,
my
wow.
mom, you don't realize what a big star she is. So, she'd get a book and read me the story. So, I learned a lot about, Judy Garland and the young child actors and what they went through. My mom was very protective,
Hmm.
and I personally had a great experience. You know, it wasn't a normal life.
Mm,
It was normal for me. I didn't, go to a prom or camp or anything like that. But in doing, these movies and things that I did, I traveled everywhere, and even doing Little House on the Prairie, there were so many kids and we were, filming out, in fields, and
mm.
we would ride horses during the day. It was like camp for me.
Yeah.
And I only had positive experiences with actors and, people treating me kindly. And, my mom watched everything. So I was protected in that sense. I
Yeah.
mean, I did come across a couple strange actors that were definitely weird. And I did do one movie that gave me anxiety that kind of sparked my anxiety. But other than that, I think I came out okay.
Is it, considering kind of you didn't have things like proms was it more important that you were so present for those with your daughters? Were you kind of, I don't want to say were you living them through them, but was it really important for you that you got to experience those because it was kind of your first experience of them?
Absolutely. When I had my first baby at 19 years old, I really overcompensated.
Mm,
First, because I was such a young mom
yeah.
and I was innately just a natural mom at a very young age, and it felt very natural and just like I had been doing it my whole life. But I knew that people had eyes on me because I was such a young mom. And I also, even though I liked my life growing up, I wanted something different for my children.
Yeah.
So I was very strict, very strict. And, I wanted my kids to go to private schools and wear a uniform
Mhm.
and have, strict bedtimes. And, you know, I was just very much, I guess, sort of like living vicariously through them, too. But I wanted the best for them. So my first daughter was reading by the time she was 4 years old. I was like, I'm like, they're all going to go to college. They're going to have the best educations. And so that's how I have raised them. Very different life than me, even though now that, they've been on reality television, they
Yeah.
really don't think about that at all.
Um, I mean, that the thing that I think whenever I talk about you with people, the thing that I think everyone sort of agrees on, and I'm sure you've heard this before, is that you are kind of a fantastic mum and a wonderful wife. And there's this real sense of kind of solidarity of your family. And it
Thank
feels very real in that, it's, you see kind of arguments and things, but it all feels supernatural. And also the bond between your daughters is really amazing to see how close they are as sisters.
It's the thing I'm most proud of in my life, and I've learned that, when you're in the public eye, if you say it too much,
Yeah.
that's the one thing people come after. So people will say to me, oh, you should write a book on marriage, parenting. I'm like, the second I do that, that's what people are going to come for. So I'm
Yeah.
so like, protective about that in a way. But um out of this family that we've created. We are a very tight unit.
Mhm.
My girls go everywhere with us. Even if we have like an anniversary, we have to say, okay, it's our anniversary. I mean, I'm fine if you want to go alone, but do you think the kids should come? And so we always do everything together. And, we of course find our alone time too, but we're so grateful that our daughters still love being with us.
Yeah.
Um, my 3 younger ones all still live at home.
Mhm.
Only Sarah, the eldest, doesn't live at home. But the other girls are all home and they don't, Alexia, who's 25, and Sophia, who's 21, they don't want to leave until they get married. And I'm so grateful. I mean, I really don't know what I will do when they all leave.
Um, did you ever, I mean, off the back of that, did you ever kind of, I don't know if I want to say question, but did you ever feel like it was too much having the cameras there with the family? Did you ever want kind of distance between them, or was it just very natural, perhaps also because you grew up with it, that it would,
That's
alter?
right. That's exactly right. For me, well, when they asked me to do this show, I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. And Portia was a baby. She was 1, turning 2. And I thought, oh, well, I mean, this is something I can do and still be home with my kids,
Yeah.
So great. I can take them wherever I go. They can, the cameras come and my kids can come. How
Yeah.
perfect. So I had to ask, my husband and my kids how they all felt. Of course, Portia was a baby, and they were all like, "Oh, this will, okay, that's fine."
Mhm.
They never cared about or wanted to be in the spotlight, but they weren't against it either. They didn't care either way.
Yeah.
So, in doing the show, it didn't feel weird to me because I grew up doing that, as a child actor, and because I did have a positive experience, I just didn't, it didn't bother me to have my kids on camera.
Mhm.
They even now, I'll say, can you, film with me this week? And they're kind of act like they're just doing me a favor. They're not like eager at all.
Yeah.
So they'll say like, oh, can we film you guys having dinner this week when you're having dinner? So I'm like, I have to ask everybody first, are you okay with them filming us having dinner this week?
Mhm.
And, I'll get a little pushback sometimes. I'm like, if you don't want to, don't do
Yeah.
it.
And it's interesting as well because it's not like your kids have then sort of pursued careers in the public eye, really, because it's very different to, I mean, obviously Gigi and Bella are very different, and also Lisa's daughter, but it's your kids have kind of, for want of a better term, they've gone off and done normal things. They're kind of being students or working in real estate. It's they're normal. It's they're not kind of, like you said, they're not after the limelight in a way.
They are not after the limelight at all. They're businesswomen. My eldest daughter, she went to NYU and USC. She graduated magna cum laude.
Mhm.
She is one of the top agents. She started the agency with my husband. She's one of the first people there. She's one of our top agents.
Mhm.
She is a workaholic. And Alexia was more of artsy type. And I thought, I don't know if she's going to want to be in real estate.
Yeah.
And she loves it. She loves the creativity, with the homes. And, she does these like Instagram stories where she does these tours, and like they were the most watched ever on, on the agency website because she's very outgoing. She's a people person. She loves meeting all the people. They're both doing amazing.
Mhm.
So I don't know what Sophia's going to do. They like the fact that it's a family business agency.
Yeah.
So the only one that's sort of, kind of wants to be in the business now, especially because she was with me on a trip in Utah, is Portia.
Mhm.
I just finished filming a Christmas movie for
Yeah.
Peacock.
Oh yes.
Yes, and I took Portia with me, and she was like, "This is the life for me."
Kind
She
of
loved.
when she was about 6, though. I remember when she was appearing very early on in the show, and she was like kind of the number one diva and phoning people up to invite them to her birthday party. And I was like, oh yeah, she's good. She's like the next generation housewife. She's definitely heading that
Well,
way.
when she was 4 years old, she all of a sudden started becoming aware of the camera.
Yeah,
And now she once again is not aware of the camera.
yeah.
But so I will never forget, because she was always the sweetest baby, never threw a tantrum. I mean, an angel. And they were filming us shopping for clothes for her to go on a yacht,
Mm.
traveling. She picked up these clothes and she threw them on the ground and she said, "Buy that." And I was so shocked. And you're so embarrassed. The cameras are there and you're thinking, what on earth? So I was like, Portia, are you kidding me? Pick that up. She was, I mean, I was so embarrassed. So many people tweeted comments, what a brat. Anyway, so after we finished filming, the cameras left. I said, why did you act like that? She said, I don't know. I thought the cameras would think it was funny. And I was like, you're not coming on TV for a while, young lady.
Um, Actually connected with that, I did want to say, considering that you grew up around film cameras and around this kind of environment, do you think it's made you so comfortable that you've kind of said or done things that in hindsight you're like, oh my God, why did I do that for an audience? Like that, why did I do that with a camera rolling?
100%. I mean, I'm so comfortable with the camera. I can tune it out. And the crew have been with us,
Yeah,
12 years now. I mean, I've known them. So they've seen my baby go from, diapers and sleeping in a crib to she's in 8th grade, going into 8th grade now. They're my family,
yeah.
you know? So I just don't think about it. And that can
It's
be
amazing it's kind of
my
the
next.
same people all the way through.
What was that?
It's amazing that it's the same people kind of, which will obviously, you'll obviously get a kind of kinship with them.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a testament to our production company, Evolution, and they really do make it like a family. And, you know, I love these people. I've gone through so much with them, ups and downs. They know every part of my life, inside and out. So, yeah, so I really ignore the cameras and don't think about it. And that, can obviously not work in my favor at times.
I wanted to ask a little bit, and I'm not sure how much you can talk about, but about the Real Housewives All Stars, which I believe has filmed, but it hasn't yet been released. If I'm never sure where we are in the UK. If you guys have, if stuff is in the US and we've not, but I've not been able to see anything about this yet. And I have Hey You, so we normally see it
We've
straight
filmed that already.
away.
I'm actually still doing some of the sit down interviews for that. And it's supposed to air in November.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah.
How was that filming process? Because I know you were the only member of the Beverly Hills cast to go out there, and everyone else kind of had a buddy from their season, and you were kind of the Beverly Hills alone.
I,
Did you know any of the other girls, or what was the relationship like?
I've met them all at one point or another, but do I know them? No,
Mhm.
definitely not. And I done Summers by Bravo with Teresa back in the day and Ramona. But I did not know what I was getting myself into. I had no idea what I was walking into. Um, I know that sometimes, the public perception is very different
Mhm.
than, when you meet the person, even though you're being yourself on reality television. So I really did not know what to expect. And I was like, why am I the only Beverly Hills one? And they have 2 Atlanta, 2 New York, 2 New Jersey. But I can hold my own. I was fine with that.
Um, and I mean, also kind of off the back of that, I'm just as a kind of interesting side note. When you're doing your confessionals, is it they show you a section and ask you to comment on it? Is that how they actually structure those?
No, it's so funny because before I started the Housewives, I mean, I mean, I never really watched reality television, but except my niece's show, The Simple Life.
Yeah.
But the illusion to me was that cameras were in your house, like in the corners 24/7. They
Mhm.
never left. And I didn't know how the intros worked or any of that. So yeah, it's not like that. Sometimes they'll be asking me my interviews. Like I shot an interview yesterday for Beverly Hills,
Mhm.
and they're asking me about something that happened 5 months ago. And I'm like, hold on, let me just take myself back there for a minute. Oh, that's right. I was really upset about this. But I'm over it right now. So yeah, they don't, I wish they would. It would actually help, but
Yeah,
you
I
have to,
guess
you gotta stay
I
sharp.
guess it's that whole thing of what's your overriding emotion, as opposed to you looking at it and being like, oh, actually, I shouldn't have got that mad. Maybe we'll downplay this, but it's
Well, you have to stay in the moment. You have to remember how you felt at the time,
yeah,
which can create more problems because, for example, I had an argument with Dorit early in the season, which we
yeah,
saw, and then we made up. But then they were asking us in interviews, and I was like, I know she wore that outfit after we already made up. Why is she talking like that about me? And then I start putting together the pieces of, the interview looks and when it was shot, and I see what's going on here.
But it's also sometimes that thing where you make up with someone and then you start to talk about it again, and then you're like, yeah, I'm still pissed off about this. Like I still remember she said that, and at the time I wasn't that pissed off, but now I'm getting angry again.
Exactly. Well, also you can't, like, say I'm doing this interview and we already made up. You really have to stay in the moment, because the audience they're still in that space with you. So you have to say these things, because that's
Mhm.
how you were in that moment. And of course there are times that we're still not made up,
Yeah.
but in those moments that we are, you're like, oh gosh, this feels terrible, but I have to be true to who I am, what I was feeling at that time. So sorry about that.
It's also difficult because then you have the moment before, then you have the moment after where you're in the moment before, and then you have the moment after that where you have to be like, you know what, I was saying this, and it's I guess sometimes it can stir everything up again, and you have all these reactions, which you see. I'm not on Twitter, so I don't do I don't see the Twitter thing, which is a blessing. I know you're kind of compelled
Terrible.
to have a Twitter, but I got someone hacked into mine, so I've not been on it for like a year and a half, and it's really cleansing. It's a really nice thing.
It's terrible, terrible. I also had my Twitter hacked, and somebody tweeted out my cell phone number,
Oh
and I
my
was
God.
lunch and I was getting phone calls from Wisconsin, Paris, Saudi Arabia, Alabama, and I was like,
Oh,
and I flipped out. But yeah, it's a very toxic place. I have it because of the show, to
yeah.
promote the show and things like that. But um, it's very rare to have someone be nice on Twitter, and it's actually very sad, when I see that. So I try to avoid it at all costs.
I think Instagram is actually a much nicer kind of medium. It feels like it's much more positive, and
Absolutely.
just kind of warmer.
I'm sorry about that beeping. There's some truck backing up, I guess,
Oh,
in
don't
my.
worry. I mean, we get weird sounds. We've had seagulls around here. I'm in the middle of London, and for some reason we've had seagulls today. So I'm just hoping that they're going to like start in the evening. Um,
That's
I wanted to ask a little bit about, we've mentioned reality a few times, and I wanted to ask, how real is the Real Housewives? How much is kind of scripted or engineered? And how are those scenes pulled together? Because it's obvious that with some of them it's you know slightly, let's pull people together and hope something happens. But I'm wondering, kind of, how much do you feel is kind of like, how much do you feel is real?
it's all real. I was asked about this yesterday. Like, um, I mean, there's nothing set up.
Hmm.
Okay, so they don't say go over to this person and say nothing like that.
Yeah.
However, if they know something's going on between you and another cast member, and I will tell you, these producers know everything. I mean, there must be spies everywhere, but they, like if you're upset with somebody, they expect you to address it. They don't want you to handle it off camera.
Yeah.
They want to handle it on camera.
Yeah.
So, and then of course, if there's an issue going on with some of the women, they want to see how that plays out.
Hmm.
So no one is told to say or do anything.
Yeah.
Do they hope that they address it on camera? Yes, of course. There's times that people don't, and they're
Hmm.
expecting it. And they're like, oh, well, I guess you didn't want to talk about it. Or,
Yeah.
so, but it's not scripted at all. Um, it's not set up, but they know what they're doing. They know who they're putting together and who will clash, and they choose these personalities wisely
Yeah.
when they cast these shows. So
And I guess it's also that whole thing of bringing, people come together. You're coming together in kind of various situations, and things are obviously going to happen when, you make sure everyone comes together. There's never just one person kind of off on their own, ignoring the rest of the group.
well, it's I'll use what's going on with Erica right now for an example.
Yeah.
Um, as we were filming, all of that was unfolding. It was all new.
Hmm.
We didn't know she was getting divorced. We didn't know. I mean, she's not even divorced yet, but we didn't know anything. and it was unfolding. And now we know when this show airs, people are going to want that addressed.
Yeah.
So we're covering what's going on in our life. So as these articles are coming out, we're talking about them. So if we're at dinner and we're all together, someone's going to ask Erica about something they read. I
Yeah.
mean, you have to address this because the audience will feel ripped off if they're not, you know, clued in on what's going on in our lives, because that's why they're watching. They know what's going on. They want all of those things addressed.
Hmm. But I also think you guys care about it as well. I know you and Erica are very close. You were the first person she kind of opened up to about, it's natural that even if someone isn't the closest friend with her, there's going to be a curiosity about it. And certainly from you, there's a concern about it. You want to know how she is, what's going on. And for me, it was very interesting because, the first Housewives franchise I watched was Beverly Hills. So I have some kind of emotional connection with you. I don't, and I only started watching last year through the pandemic. So I was binge watching 5 a day, like all the way through. I got very engrossed in it. And so when the Erica story started to break, I remember reading that LA Times story when it first came out, and then seeing you guys go through it, for me, it's a very natural reaction because your reaction is what my reaction was, which was like, oh my God, can you believe this? Oh my God, this goes on forever. This is a huge piece. And, it felt like a very natural reaction, just, I guess, because it was my reaction as well of, I can't believe, every day it seems that something else is emerging that you never imagined or that you could never have anticipated about this story.
Every day, every day. And it's very difficult because in the cast there are people that don't know her well,
Yeah.
that have just really met her. And then of course there's people like Rinna, Dorit, and myself that have known her longer.
Mhm.
And Erica has been nothing but kind and supportive with me, at a time that was difficult when I wasn't speaking with my sisters and, with American Woman. And she could not have been more loving and more supportive. And now something like this comes out, and there are people that are assuming she's guilty or knew something. And that you're going to be watched with a magnifying glass. But the
Mhm.
people that are assuming that she was guilty and knew everything are the people that have never met her, that
Yeah.
know the persona of her. And then
Mhm.
the people that know her don't think that.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult because you're going to get heat if you support her from the people that think she's guilty, but they don't know. None of us know. Obviously, we would never support somebody who has done something terrible.
Yeah.
What Tom Girardi has done is terrible, but Erica is her own person.
Yeah.
So, we're trying to let this play out and learn and educate ourselves as we go along. So, I keep saying, I want to support you. I can't defend you because I don't know yet. So I'm educating myself, but I
Yeah.
know that the person I know is a great person.
Yeah.
So it's difficult, and she, of course, the number one issue here is the victims.
Yeah.
They're the ones that we all care about the most. But it's also sad to see your friend's life crumble before your eyes. Of
Yeah.
course, you
Yeah.
can compare it to the victims and everything that's going on, but um, it's a sad story across the board.
No, I think and I think that's the thing. It's interesting to see the kind of compassion and the genuine bonds between the members of the cast, which is like, you don't want to see a friend of yours having to cope with this kind of stuff, completely separate to what actually kind of completely separate to what Tom did and all that kind of stuff. It's like, you don't want to see someone, because of their connection to someone, being, dragged through the mud and having all these assumptions made about their character. I thought something Teddy said in this week's episode was really great, which was, she kind of said, until I hear anything else, you're innocent. Like, like, I have to believe what you're saying, and and you're innocent, and that's my relationship to it until someone proves otherwise. And I thought that was a very kind of, that's the approach to take. It's, it's two complete separate things.
Yeah, that's what I have been saying. In this country, you're innocent until
Yeah.
proven guilty. And um, we're just literally learning, as you see on the show, a little more every day.
Mhm.
But it wasn't that Erica was accused, it was Tom that was accused of these things.
Yeah.
And now whether she knew or not. So, you know, it's challenging in those times. And we all knew, you know, well, those who support her are gonna get heat and, you know, so, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, I have to live with myself and, you know that I have been a good friend to someone who's been a good friend to me and learn and educate myself.
Um, I'm not, I mean, this is a bit of a weird segue, but I also, talking about kind of sort of everything on camera, you went through cosmetic surgery this season. And I thought it was really great that you were kind of open and honest and talked about it and really kind of helped to break down some of the stigmas, I think, that still linger around that. Was it something that you know, was it something that was natural for you to do? Did you question whether you were going to do it that way? You know?
Well, I am always honest about anything that I have done.
Mhm.
And I'm still accused of doing things that I have not done. And it's so maddening to me. People always think I had my face done. I had whatever it is. They think I had my boobs done. And I know that I should just like let it roll off my back, but I'm like, I will be honest with you. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, so A, I would have said I had my nose done, whether I had done it on camera or off.
Yeah.
And B, yeah, me know. B, I don't have downtime. So I'm gonna do something that's gonna be on camera.
Gonna see it.
Yeah, people are like, "Oh, nice facelift." I'm like, I never had a facelift. If I had 6 weeks to go and hiding and recover, you know, but I would still say it, even you know, even if I had done that. But yeah, so I don't have downtime. So I'm like, well, I'll just do it on camera then. I'm gonna be honest about it anyway. So they actually filmed the entire surgery, which they didn't really like. They showed just like a
I'm
flashback,
glad we
and I
didn't
didn't.
see all of it. I think when we saw, I'm very squeamish, so we saw a bit of it, and I was like, okay, this is like, you know. But even then, seeing your face afterwards was so kind of, you know, it was so beat up because I mean, it looks amazing. You look. That's the other thing. I do think people question it because I was looking at you at the start and now, and I'm like, you look fabulous. Like you look younger now than when you actually started 11 years ago. I think.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, of course, I see the aging and the flaws. You guys don't see maybe, but um, my nose definitely made me look younger. And my doctor
Yeah.
said I took 10 years off of you.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, but the second I pulled up my bandage, I sent a picture to Rina and Erica and Dorit, and they responded back like, and she's 27 years old now, or something like that. And it really did make a difference. But after that, after I did my nose, people were thinking I did all these other things. And it really can, you know, make a really big difference. And I know even as I'm saying this, people think I'm lying, but that's just part of, you
But
know.
also, wouldn't like if you're saying you've done one, when you just say if you were doing the rest, it's like wouldn't you just be like, yeah, I've had, you know, and also someone else would look at you and be like, well, she's had all of this done as well because you know, like a doctor would look at it and be like, yeah, this isn't just the nose. You know, people analyze these.
Exactly, exactly. But you know, that's part of being in the public eye. People always
Yeah.
think you're lying. And it's the thing that makes me the most crazy because I take pride in the fact that I am not a liar.
Yeah.
And I actually was so annoyed the other day because I watched this week's episode and I'm a very good cook in spite of the fact that I burned the salmon this season. But
Mhm.
that's because I had to go talk with the ladies and I said, can you watch the salmon? But I can't explain to people. So I cooked this Christmas dinner and and everyone knows that I'm obsessed with making my holiday dinner and I'm really, really good at it. And in the editing, it was like they thought that they put like my housekeeper was my chef. And I was like, I do not have a chef. I was like, of all the things. I mean, poor Erica's like going through hell with all these things. And I'm like, I do not have a chef. And I made all of that food myself. I was so upset. And they're like, oh, sorry, that was an honest mistake. And I was like, whatever. So they fixed that.
If you're as an honest person, I have to ask this off the back of that. Is Are Kathy's reactions to things real? I mean, when we're talking kind of hunky dory, and you know, is this really what Kathy's like? I mean, your impersonation of Kathy is unbelievably good. Like one of my favorite things on this season is, and actually the dynamic between you two, you know, alongside the kind of dynamic that your daughters have with each other. I thought the dynamic between you two is fabulous because you can see the closeness, and you know, you can absolutely see. But is she for real?
Well, here's the thing about Kathy. even if she's joking, I can't tell
Yeah.
sometimes. But like when she's like, I don't know how to put in the fan, I don't, that is 100% her. She is like, I honestly, she needs a nanny, is what she needs. I mean, when she drove to La Quinta and she said, I've never driven here by myself, she means that,
Yeah.
and my mom babied her. She was the first, and then she got married so young, and then
Yeah.
Rick kind of like took over, like taking charge. She's been very coddled her whole life.
Mhm.
So, that's all real. And then sometimes she will joke and keep a straight face, and I can't. She teases me all the time, and I'm
Yeah.
like, Kat, I'm joking. She's like, no, I'm not. And she will push it so far. So, does she know what hunky doors? I don't even know. I honestly thought that she thought that it was code word for Dorit. I don't know, because she cannot get Dorit's name right.
I guess sometimes she asks those things and I'm like, because I'm a bit like, are you saying this is a joke to lighten the mood or something? And then it's like people take it really deadly seriously, and then it's a bit like, okay, shit, I've got to kind of go with this because like this didn't have the reaction I wanted. Yeah.
She does do that too, because she gets nervous when there's like,
Yeah.
drama, stress. She'll make like a joke, and I'm like, sometimes like, cut this stuff. Don't do that right now. There's somebody's crying over there. So, but she is a very funny person, and she I knew that people would think she's funny because she is. I mean,
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
a comedian at heart.
Mm-hmm. Having talked a bit about your kind of your surgery, I did want to talk more generally about kind of appearance and about clothes and fashion. And fashion is my thing, as maybe you can tell.
Yeah.
And I think kind of in the recent seasons, fashion seems to become kind of the extra housewife. Do you feel that? Do you feel that the fashion has become kind of heightened in the past maybe 2 or 3 seasons? It's become, more of a focus. Do you feel more like you want to dress up and,
I actually don't like that, to be honest, about
Mm.
the show. Um, I'm someone who enjoys fashion, but I'm also, I enjoy fashion at the right time and for the right occasion. I'm also a very casual person in
Yeah.
my
You like
personal
being
life.
able to switch off?
Yes, exactly. So when I see like just going to, lunch with the girls or coming to hang out at each other's homes, and I see these over the top outfits, it's too much for me personally. And it didn't used to be like that. I mean, when we originally started, we would get dressed up to go to an event,
Yeah.
and I'm often at home with no makeup on, and I show that, and just jeans, or and sweats, or whatever. So I feel like it's a bit too much, and I know
Mhm.
that people like the other franchises look, I think, towards our franchise too, especially if they're a newer franchise. And now I see all of these shows, they're going over the top,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this is not real to me. Like I
Mhm.
can't do that every day. I just
Yeah.
can't. And I would never. I don't have the time. I wouldn't want to spend that money to
Yeah.
dress, head to toe in an outfit, Chanel, to go, hang out at someone's house to have a tea.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting because I always remember talking with Tom Ford and him saying to me kind of in LA, women wear 2 things, it's evening wear or sweatpants. And he's like that, and I'm like, it used to be that, but I feel like now we've got just the evening wear as opposed, the sweatpants have kind of gone.
Well, I mean, it's also for me, I I had an argument with Dorit about this. Was it last season? I think.
The
Yeah.
glam Eddie's.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to explain some things on camera sometimes, but it's just, to me, too much, this whole every day having hair and makeup.
Yeah.
I don't do that in my life.
Mhm.
You know, um, I often, and to each his own, I get that, but to have a whole production
Yeah.
every single time, it's like, I mean, come on. We're just like, this is not get real. So, but people got mad at me for, pointing it out, like, what do you care? I'm like, it was more than that. It was the fact that I had to wake up at 5 a.m. to
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
out there. And then she came late so she could do the hair and the makeup. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's all too much, really.
And I oscillate between feelings because I feel like you that it's not real, but at the same time, it weirdly makes me think of like 1930s Hollywood and kind of, you know, like Marlene Dietrich in the Depression and everyone being so glamorous all the time. And I'm like, maybe it's kind of, we're going through a bad moment. And maybe that's why people want all this glamour, because it's like, oh, here's the kind of unreality of reality in a sense.
But to me, I get that too. And I think, you know, if you're looking at it in like as a fantasy
Yeah.
perspective, but you know, the people watching, you know, I mean, they cannot. I'm thinking if I'm the audience, I'm seeing people having their hair and makeup done every day to go somewhere. Like,
Yeah.
I personally can't wrap my head around that. And like my sister, who, you know, we all can do it,
Yeah.
can afford to do it, but I don't, you know, normally know
Kind of
people who
can't afford the time. It's kind of that where you're like, who's got the time for this? That's my
the time.
perspective
Like,
is, yeah.
honestly, you think I want to sit? I mean, like, hair and makeup because I didn't want to sit in a chair for 2 hours, you know, and
Yeah.
then, you know, come here and then go to the next thing. So even though it is to each his own, I just think, you know, we can split the difference a little bit.
Yeah. Do you I mean, do you feel like you've become kind of more confident with your fashion in the show? Do you feel like you're, because you know, I love the outfit that you and Rinna both accidentally twinned in at, you know, but again, I guess that was, you know, that was an event and it was a thing, and let's dress to a theme, and you know, there was like an idea behind it. It wasn't just let's wear this kind of extreme outfit for no
Right.
reason. It's not kind of
Never
ditzy.
worn a dress like that to someone's house just for lunch. But there was a couple things. Sutton wanted it to be a Parisian theme. And there was this sort of, like you said at the beginning, that you don't feel it's a COVID season.
Yeah.
We No one was going anywhere.
Yeah.
So we're like, well, we want to look nice and like keep the feeling that we normally have. So let's get dressed. Like, even if we go to each other's house, let's
Yeah.
get dressed. Let's make it nice.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see everybody laying around in their sweats.
Mhm. Yeah, no, no, no. I think, and also slightly, I guess, you've all been lying around in your sweats for 3 weeks. So let's put something nice on, even if we're just going to someone's
Exactly,
house.
exactly. And an expectation, you know, with our show, people do watch what we're wearing, even if it is sweats and jeans and whatever. They want to know what it is and, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
what
yeah.
brand and this. So, you know, I try to stay true to myself always. You know, I'll get dressed up for the right occasion, and then, you know, I'm casual.
I
I'm
mean,
casual.
I was going to say, is there a favorite outfit you've worn? Because, you know, my favorite outfit was the what I kind of call like kind of deluxe Rizzo, which was your crystal, when you wore crystal shoes and kind of spandex pants and the Prada shirt with the feathers around this. Because I'm a Prada boy, so when you wore that, I was like, yes, this looks amazing.
I love that outfit. I really love that outfit. I love that shirt. Um, I like, you know, I always feel like I have a couple personalities, you know,
Mm.
in life. You know, I always say I'm half rock star, half librarian. I can go out and have fun and be crazy, you know, not too crazy. I mean, the
Yeah,
craziest I get is having, you know, some margaritas or, you know, but I also love to be home and reading, um, hiking in the mountains. So I have like two very different aspects of my personality. I feel like that with fashion too. And I
mhm,
used to feel like, oh, I have to be the same thing all the time and be consistent, because that doesn't really make sense that you like all these different things. You know, I can look at Jennifer Aniston and I love her clean, simple style.
yeah,
I love it. I also look at J Lo and I'm like, oh, I love that
yeah,
too.
yeah,
So sometimes, you know, I'm a little bit of both, but there's another aspect of my personality that, you know, I don't see on the show, but like when I'm not in LA and I'm like in Colorado, I am always in cowboy boots and a cowboy hat.
yeah,
And I don't know, like that's like, you know, I feel like in my heart, that's who I am.
yeah, yeah,
I have all these different things that I like and enjoy, but you know, I used to be more self-conscious of my body on the show and
mhm,
body image. I've gotten more confident about my body as I've gotten older, oddly. I also changed a lot of my workout routine and my eating habits. And so I feel better about
mhm. Um, I have to ask you this question, as I think I have to ask I have to ask every Real Housewife, and especially as I know that you love Hermes. How many Birkins do you own?
Oh my God. Well, one of my friends, Like one of my best friends, who's one of the biggest collectors I know, always told me never count them. It's bad luck. So, you probably know since you watch the show, I was burglarized.
Of course, I
And
remember
I
now. Yeah.
stole every single one except the one I had with me when I was out of town, as well as every piece of jewelry except what was on my body. So the things that bothered me the most were the things that my mom had left me
Yeah.
and my Hermes bags, because each of those Hermes bags had a story.
Yeah.
And they really do have a story for me. And, you know, one I bought in Saint Tropez, you know, one I bought, you know, my first one that I had bought in Beverly Hills. And then I had one I was in Cannes with Kris Jenner. And I just had all these different stories. And they were all really special to me. And it was really devastating. So then I know that sounds terrible,
No, but
but
I know you can't just go and buy one. You have to go and do the appointment, and it's this whole thing of kind of.
I mean devastating in general with just the burglary, like, you know,
Well, the
everything was
violation, it's such a horrible. Touch wood, I've never had it happen, but it's weird because I've been working from home for so long, and now I'm going and working other places. And in the middle of the day, I'll get this thing of like, oh my God, what if my house has been burgled? And I don't know why. It's just in the back of my head. It's like, because, you know, I've got a lot of. I'm sure there's a lot of shit they wouldn't look at, but if you've got a Louis Vuitton bag, you know they're going to go after a Louis Vuitton bag. They're going to go after anything.
like we had just gone to Milan, and I had bought like luggage with my initials on it at Goyard, and
Oh,
they took all my luggage and put all my stuff in it and took it. So that was even, you know, worse. But like I said, the worst part was my mom's joy that I can never replace. But
yeah, yeah.
then when I started replacing my bags, I was like, okay, I have like a little like album in my phone of like colors that I want. I mean,
Oh, so you're trying to rebuy them kind of to fill the gap, you know, to replicate what you can, I guess, because you can.
well, in the US, you're allowed to buy 2 per season.
Okay.
Dude, I get 2 a year.
You can travel, you could do them in different places. I've been told it's really good to go to like bizarre places like Austria where they don't really sell them, and then you can get them.
In France, I was able to buy 2 at one time.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like, and I remember I was like, what am I going to tell my husband? What am I going to tell my husband? So it was a black Kelly and a pink Kelly. And I said, and then I was like panicking because I mean, the fact that they offered, I was like, no, no, no. And that's when I was with Kris Jenner, and she said, buy both. And I said, Kris, just, I'm not you. I'm going to pick the one. So she kept saying, you work hard, you deserve it. So I bought the first one. And then I was like, look at the other one, like, and she's like, just sitting there, and you work hard. And I was like, oh. So, and the fact that they were letting me buy the second one, so I bought it. And then I was like, well, what am I going to do? So one of my friend, I told you, is one of the biggest collectors there, and she's like, I'll buy it from you. So then I went back to the hotel, and my husband said, 2? And I said, well, one is for Sharon. He's like, you're not giving that to Sharon. And I was like, okay, cool, thanks.
I was going to say the other one is to buy a Birkin and then put the Kelly in the Birkin, and then you can hide, you know. As you can tell, I buy a lot of things and hide it from my boyfriend. There's a lot of kind of, you buy something, you put it in there, and then
it's like the Russian dolls. That's what I do. It's a Russian dolls. I put the 30 and the 35 and then a Kelly inside of the 30. I mean, it sounds so terrible, but it is something that I love. And you know, I'm sure that's something people maybe not understand, but you know, like I don't understand the hair and makeup every day, but
yeah,
I love jeans and a comfortable shirt. And like I said, like cowboy boots or, you know, comfortable shoe. And then my bag, that's the thing I love the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, I don't spend crazy money on my clothing.
No, the bags are the luxury.
Yeah, and I just
they're a good investment. As I can say from the Financial Times, it's like that, you know, they've gone up more in value than gold has over the last 20 years. They're a better investment than gold.
Well, my sister, she said, because I showed her one of my new ones, and she said, it's money in the bank. So then my husband saw it. I said, well, Kathy said it's money in the bank, just so you know. That's probably my favorite one. You're asking about the bags. I mean, I'm not gonna say how many, but I actually don't even actually know for sure. But my favorite one is a horseshoe that is like the pink, that is custom.
Yeah.
And I went to sit down and pick the colors. You would have thought I was picking the sex, hair color, and eye color of my next child. And my friend was like talking, I was like, no, I need to concentrate. Hold on. There's so many versions of this pink. I mean, it was ridiculous. And I'm like, I cannot believe I did this, but you know what? I love it. And I have 4 daughters and I'm going to pass them on to
Yeah,
them. And,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I have my mom's bags.
Well, that,
Well,
that's the thing. It's actually something
oh,
that will stay. It's something that you can pass down. It's kind of I think maybe it's the kind of feminine equivalent of a watch that a dad will pass down to a son and that kind of thing.
exactly. And some of my mom's bags actually that she left me were oddly saved because they couldn't reach. So there was a couple. And my daughters use them. I'm like,
Yeah,
that was your grandmother's
yeah.
Chanel bag, so.
I wanted to ask about the show, because there's something that I find very interesting, which I feel sometimes, because of the kind of environment of it, and maybe because it's slightly heightened, just by the presence of the cameras, problems that have been brewing for years are sometimes brought to the surface and then kind of reach a resolution. In some cases, it's not so great, such as the situation you went through with Lisa. But I wonder, can the show be a bit like therapy in terms of forcing you to deal with things?
Absolutely. Um, it can be very anxiety provoking, obviously,
Mm,
but for me, it's taught me so much about speaking up because I'm someone who suffers from anxiety.
yeah,
Um, Often I would rather not deal with something if it creates any uncomfortable feeling, panic feeling, or, like I said, anxiety attacks. And so um, it helped me to be more honest and not to be afraid to speak up,
mm,
sometimes so much that now, in my personal life without cameras, I have to remind myself, you don't always have to be that honest.
yeah,
You don't have to be that honest here. You can, just zip it sometimes. But it's been very good for me like that. And also it's like a character study. You watch and you're like, oh, even though they didn't understand why I reacted like this, because they didn't really know the whole backstory, I can still learn from this.
yeah.
A good example is like what happened with my sister, Kim
Hmm.
and me, season 1, and dealing with we were dealing with in our relationship and what, her issues and all of that.
Yeah.
Um, I thought because of all her issues, I thought because of all of her issues that, as her family, we were the victims of it.
Mhm.
It was so hard for us to, live through with her.
Yeah.
And watching the show, it was like, that's when I really got it's a disease. She can't help herself,
Hmm.
and it taught me a lot. And I learned from that. I grew from that. Um, so I think it can be oddly a really good thing too. And my husband and I, people have tried to come for us in our marriage so many times, and it's only made us stronger.
Hmm.
And he's very like, honey, who cares? Like, who cares what anybody thinks? That's a lie. We know that's a lie. But I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, but some people believe, and it would make me crazy. But it just, you know, made us stronger. Like we
Yeah.
had never gone through things like that before. And when you do come out the other side, on the strong side of it, you grow from it, and
Yeah.
so I feel grateful for that. And it sounds weird because it's reality television, but that's the truth.
But I think it's also that whole thing of, you kind of have to be direct, because if you're not direct and then you talk about it, it looks like you're talking about things behind someone's back. It's this whole thing where it actually teaches you a lot of really great things, where ultimately it's like, okay, let's just be straight to the point. And even if maybe it causes a bit of pain in this instance, ultimately it's going to be much better than us not addressing this for X amount of time.
Well, that's what I always say. And there's like this comedian who impersonates me, and she's like, just be honest. You got to be honest. You got to tell the truth. But it's the truth. You have to be, because, we have a situation this season where someone says something to me on camera
Mm,
about somebody, but then doesn't want to say it to her face. So I'm
yeah.
like, and you don't acknowledge the cameras when you're filming. So you don't say, you already said this on camera, you should repeat this. So you try to find ways to word it, and I'm like, she's going to find out you said this.
Yeah, yeah,
So why
it's
don't you just be honest with her?
yeah.
Speak to her. She's going to find it anyway. So do you want to wait till the show airs and then you are two-faced,
Mm,
she'll never trust you. So, but you're like trying to like word it so the audience, gets what you're trying to
I want to
say.
do a bravo, bravo, bravo Denise Richards moment of, this. I mean, it was interesting as a thing because I feel like the fourth wall has been broken a few times, and it's interesting now you slightly hear the producers in some of the confessionals and things like that, which I think is very interesting and a kind of acknowledgement of the environment you're all in. But that was very interesting.
Very interesting, because it shows how real it is.
That's exactly it. It's like, it's not like you're all, I mean, it's a bit like I was watching kind of the Paris's cooking show on Netflix, and it's amazing when she's being Paris Hilton, then she kind of clicks out of it and she's sort of like, oh God, what am I supposed to do? Why is this broken? Like, it's very interesting her coming in and out of character. And not that you guys are in character, but it is very interesting that all of a sudden something's happening and then it's just all a bit like, oh, like.
Well, with that scene with Denise, it was so interesting because, a lot of the newer housewives will come in and they're paranoid, like, oh, they've been warned, careful, they're coming for you, like we're this. And it's not the case. We let things unfold as it happens, and sometimes it'll happen with one person, sometimes it'll happen with another person. So she thought that I was trying to make her look bad by saying, oh, I thought you had to work at something. It was completely something she had in her head. And I was like, let's talk about that. I'm fine. Like, that's not, I'm not saying that at all. Just drop it. Who cares?
Yeah.
And by the way, if it had been dropped, that wouldn't even been used. Like, I was not trying to set her up anyway. But she's like, I'm not gonna do this. Bravo, 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 fucking bravo. And she thought she learned that from me, but that wasn't the case either. I've never done that. Where that actually came from was in the beginning of filming the show. No one had hair and makeup. We do ourselves and get ready. So when we'd want to touch up, like if they'd be like, hold on, we need to change discs or whatever when they're filming, the girls would all be like, as I have here, they'd be like, and then the cameras would be pulled back up. But because there was no breaking of the fourth wall, you didn't want to look like you're touching up your makeup because they're just watching people having lunch. So that's kind of acknowledging there's cameras. So we'd go, no, don't talk. So I'd look in the camera and go, hi, Bravo. Hi, Andy Cohen. Hi. And then I'd go like that.
Yeah.
So someone had told her that. So that's why she did the Bravo, Bravo, Bravo.
That's where it came from.
That's where it came from.
It's so interesting. But again, I was going to say kind of, how do you feel the show has evolved over 11 years? But I guess that's part of its evolution. It's gone through so many kind of different evolutions, and it's such a different beast now than it was back then. I feel,
it's very different now. And season 10, we broke the fourth wall so many times because we had to, because there are people not being forthcoming. So that was the only way to make the show and tell the real story.
Well, also, otherwise you would lose enormous chunk. You would just lose the story because it's like, and there'd be no resolution to it because someone walked out of a restaurant.
Just walking off, they would, then we're going to off and that whole situation. But then with this season, they didn't really want to do that. So you'll hear the producer ask a question, which, by the way, then you get scared because there have been many times where, they'll ask something, I'll be like, oh, I am not saying that. I'm not touching that one. And now they use that stuff. So now I'm like, oh God, and things slip out of my mouth all the time.
I'm quite into the whole asking it and just being like, I'm not dealing with this. Like, I don't even want to touch that. I really liked, I don't even want to touch that. I felt like that was totally the right reaction to be like, whoa, no. Like, let's just put this to one side.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's kind of the only way to deal with those things. I think it's like, it's and again, it's being honest, like, no, let's not go there,
Well, I think the audience likes, getting a little peek, of how it's made and what's kind of going on behind the scenes sometimes. So it's,
I'm aware I've taken up a lot of your time. I wanted to ask you just if you'd be able to describe each of your co-stars in a word. Do you think you'd be able to do that, or in a few words, like in a little phrase just for each of them?
Okay, let me think. Let me start with Rinna.
She's the first on my list.
Energetic. Fun. Honest. I love Rinna.
Mm.
You know, I really do. And I know she got heat because of the Denise thing, but she's, you know, I obviously had a very different experience, and she's been a great friend to me. And I know that she has a lot of amazing friends that all think that too. So, you know, I'd say energetic, fun, honest, and loving.
Mm. Dorit.
Dorit, fun. We have so much fun together. She's funny, um, very helpful. Like she always is like, can I do this? Do you need anything? You know, she's the first person to be like, if you don't feel good, I can bring you some chicken soup. Like
Yeah.
she's very sweet. Um, and of course stylish.
Mm. Erica.
Erica, sensitive, guarded,
Mm.
trustworthy, well,
Mm. Garcelle.
beautiful, um, fun. I'm trying to think of the third word because we've had some bumps in the road.
Yeah,
So
I mean it's it,
she's she's a little sneaky. 'Cause she'll say something like, I don't like her. And then she'll flash these beautiful dimples, and you're like, next thing you know, you're smiling, but you're like, oh wait, that
yeah.
wasn't nice.
No, I felt, and to be honest, I felt the whole thing where it was like, but it with her thing with Rena, where it was like, oh, she thinks everything's okay. Well, everything's not. And I'm like, well, you kind of need to have that conversation with her and be like, you know, and it's also very difficult to be like, I'm offended by you, and like, you need to gain back my affection. I didn't really, I mean, that was for me, I was just a bit like, I don't really know what you want to get out of this. Like, when you just say to someone, you've really offended me. And the same, actually, the thing she said to you, which is, I feel like you really wronged me. And you said you did all you could, which is like, I'm really sorry. I can't, I can't understand this because I can't. And, you know, and I certainly wasn't thinking any of that stuff, and I didn't mean to do anything, and I'll learn from it. You, as far as I'm concerned, you did everything right in that I'm going to learn from this, and, you know, this is a learning experience. But it's a bit like, I can't not say what I said that offended you. So it's just like, I don't
Right.
know what, you know, I don't know how much else you want me to make this up to you.
Well, I just feel like, you know, like even like in last night's episode, you know, I guess you haven't, are you like
Oh
a
no,
week?
I've seen it. I've seen it.
Oh, so, you know, she said something about Teddy, that she's annoying and a little, you know,
Yeah,
gnat, whatever.
yeah.
And then she like laughs and smiles, but this, it's just, it's not
Well, I
nice.
was a bit like, whew, like you didn't
Well,
need to
it's
kind
not
of.
nice, even though you smile and flash the dimple. I don't know. I just said, I always say flash the dimples because she does look so pretty when she
Yeah,
smiles. And she kind of goes like, and but you're like, it's still not nice. And like, you know, I had to beg Teddy to come on for that scene, and it's like, and then someone said something rude in the interview. It bothered me
you
because
and Teddy are still really close, aren't you? I know, because you were
she's one
on
of my
her
best friends.
podcast, and
She's one of my best friends, and you know, I don't know. She was on the show 3 years, and you know, like I just didn't think it was necessary. So that kind of
yeah,
stuff makes me kind of go, I don't know.
yeah.
Okay, next housewife.
Crystal.
Crystal. Crystal is, I mean, everyone's nice to me. So I'm like trying to think of, you know, like, I know that there's like no shitty answers here. Crystal is sweet. Um, she has a good sense of humor. She's very smart.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
And Sutton.
Sutton, kooky, funny, always down for a good time.
Hmm.
Stubborn. That stuff's coming up, but I'm like, sometimes when I'm trying to get something through to her, she is very like, and I'm like, don't be so stubborn, listen. And she's like, no,
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 when
no.
she was mixing the drinks and she was going, I'm fine, I'm fine. You're like, you're obviously not.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
you
she
know.
gets real stubborn like that.
Yeah. And what about Kathy?
I mean, my sister, let's say she's hilarious. Um, sensitive. She's a Pisces.
Hmm.
You don't want to mess with her. She may be sensitive, but you don't want to cross her either.
What star sign are you?
I'm a Capricorn
Oh.
with a Leo rising.
Oh.
That's my, I think that's my half rock star, half librarian thing.
Okay. Okay. It's those
So I
two.
think the Capricorn in me is the one who likes to be home and reading or in the mountains alone. You
Yeah.
know, I like to be alone, you know, and I have very seldom have alone time because I have so many kids and a husband, the dogs and everything. So, and then the Leo in me is just like,
I kind of like, because the Capricorn is the one that likes to be at home, and the Leo is like someone to watch you while you're at home. It's almost like, so it's kind of like great for housewives, because it's like, I want to be alone, but I want you to know I'm alone. I want you to see me being alone. Maybe that's the two.
well, and the Leo in me is the one who's, you know, dancing on the table after
Yeah,
having
yeah.
margaritas. So
Um, and my last question is, I think a decade of The Real Housewives has shifted our perceptions of Kyle Richards as an audience, but do you think it has changed who Kyle Richards is?
no, I think I mean, I've grown over these, you know, 11 years of being on the show, of course. Um, Maybe being on the show sped up that growth a bit because you are faced with seeing, you know, things. And like I said, from experiences that you can grow from.
Mhm.
But I did this show with Andy Cohen where it was like behind the scenes reality. I forgot the name exactly what it was, but and he showed my audition tape from, I mean, God, what year was that? 2009.
Yeah.
Um, and it was literally like I would not have one different answer. I'm still the same person. You know, I haven't changed. Anyone who knows me is always says, you know, I'm the exact person on the show as I
Mhm.
am in real life. Now, I may have more arguments and, you know, more chaos in the show because we're put in that situation. But you know, obviously I don't have that in my home. My
Yeah.
home is my
Yeah.
sister. I've had issues with my sisters, yes, but like so no, you know, I think that what you see is what you get with me, and I'm still the same person.
Amazing. Kyle, thank you so much. I also want to say, I was doing my research, reading up about you, and I didn't know about the thing you had with the walking into the beehive and this whole thing. And I was just like, oh my God, like this sounds like, and there's a thing where you jump into the water because they're in your hair. And I was just like, fuck me, this sounds like the most horrendous thing to ever happen to anyone. And I know you're allergic and terrified as well. So I just
It,
wanted to make sure you were okay after that. I think I also got in my head muddled. I was like, oh my God, was this last week? And I realized it was back in July.
no.
Was it July?
What was you know what? I came home. I was filming the movie in Utah,
Yeah.
and I came home for a weekend. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. I don't know. Now I forgot. But I was 5 weeks in Utah, so
Yeah.
I came home for the weekend, and one bee couldn't kill me if I don't have my EpiPen there. So I went back to get one of my dogs who was barking at the neighbor's dog through the like wall, and I walked into a beehive that I didn't know was there.
Oh God.
And oh my, I honestly have PTSD from it. I'm not
Oh
joking.
no, no, I'm like,
I think that they're like around. I think I hear them, and they were in my hair. I had one stung me here on my hand, and it wouldn't come off. And I kept hearing the buzzing, and I just kept shaking my head, and it gives me goosebumps when I talk about it. So I jumped in the pool, and I would come up, and I'd still feel them. So then I would go down and swirl my hair around, and watching the security footage of it. I mean, I could laugh after because my friend Justin, he was like, "I'm so glad you're okay," but I can't stop laughing. He goes, "I first thought the tape was set up, but that's just how fast you were running." But my EpiPen, the 911 TMZ released the 911 tape,
yeah.
and which was I was shocked when I saw someone send that to me. But the 911 operator was getting so frustrated with me because what he was describing wasn't working with my EpiPen.
Yeah.
And I had two situations happening. He was describing a different EpiPen to me.
Mhm.
They've made a more like affordable one that
Yeah.
like you can now there was a controversy about how much they cost. So I had one of the old original ones laying around. So they operate differently. and mine malfunctioned, which I Googled later, and they were having issues with it malfunctioning. So fortunately the ambulance got here fast, and I went to the hospital and I'm okay, but it was actually terrifying.
Well, no, it's, I mean, it looks, when I read about it, I was just like, this is like for anyone in any situation, even without your allergies and the problems that you have, you know, I was like, this would be horrendous to happen to anybody, but I know there's an extra level of it for you.
You want something crazy? So I went back to Utah, and we finished filming at like 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
So I got in my rent a car, and I was pulling out, and I went to ask one of the ADs, what is my call time going to be tomorrow? I rolled down the window, a bee flew in my car. You can't make this up, okay? I had 2 men trying to help get the bee out of my car. And I started freaking out because I was thinking to myself, if I were to pay you $10 million to go find a bee at 3 a.m.
Yeah. How would you get a
Not
bit?
find a bee at 3 in the morning,
Yeah,
okay? So then I like posted about it, and I never look at DMs because, I mean, you get, I don't know. I don't look at the ones of the people that you don't know, but I was curious, and people were like, there's evil eye on you and you need to scrub with sea salt and all this stuff. So I was like, hey, I do not know if that is true or not, but I'm not taking any chances.
Like,
So I bought sea salt, scrub, everything you can imagine. I was like in the bath, scrubbing head to toe, and no bees since then. So
okay, good. So it worked. Whatever it was worked. It's like,
all I know is I was like, this is too much. This is too much of my car of all people at 3 a.m.
well, I'm glad there's no bees there. I'm glad you're okay. And thank you so much. It's been really wonderful talking to you. And
Great talking to you. Thank you for your time.
And yours too. And I'm really enjoying the season. And yeah, you know, I'm a big fan, and I can't wait to see All Stars and the movie. I love that there's lots of content coming out that I'm going to be able to enjoy.
You have to look for Halloween, which is coming out October 15th. And then the Christmas movie on Peacock will be out Thanksgiving. So
amazing. Thank you so much
for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.